The Knirk and Gustafson design model. According to Reiser in the 1980s, the focus on needs assessment shifted to identifying the gaps between actuals and optimals and whether the discrepancy was due to lack of incentive, lack of knowledge or skills, or lack of environmental support. In 1981, Gustafson created a taxonomy of ID models that had 4 categories. These categories were classroom focus, product focus, system focus, and organizational focus. The Knirk and Gustafson model falls under the systems focus categories. In 1986, Knirk and Gustafson published a book, Instructional Technology: A Systematic Approach to Education, where their instructional design model is presented. The Knirk and Gustafson design model is a 3-stage process. This model is unique from other models as there are individual processes or steps involved with each stage. According to Kurishi, it appears that the model is simple in its design but inclusive of details and tries to convey the inclusiveness through circles and arrows. The steps don't have to follow a specific consecutive order. This model is ideally suited for e-learning projects with a smaller scope, such as individual classroom lessons, online training activities, and modules. It is a model which can be used by novices or expert designers. The first stage is the problem determination stage. In problem identification, a task analysis and needs assessment is conducted. This will show the specific skills and information that need to be addressed in the training to bridge the gaps. The learner's entry-level skills, including their knowledge base, their communication skills, their learning styles, and their physical and mental health are assessed. General instructional goals are also identified. Organization development is done by planning, organizing, coordinating, evaluating, and reporting on the results gathered from the assessments and their analysis, which will also lead to selecting a reasonable method for design. The second stage is the design stage. In this stage, you will determine which strategies, activities, and materials will solve the problem and fill the gaps you discovered in the previous stage. Objectives are developed that align with your goals. These could be cognitive, attitude-related, and psychomotor objectives. Strategies are chosen based on the learner, content, and available resources. Some things to consider during the stage is who your learner is, presentation strategies, and the communication that will take place. One must think through the characteristics of different media tools and decide which would be most beneficial for the activity that is being developed. The third stage is the development stage. In this final stage, prototyping and focus groups may be necessary to produce an efficient and effective result before officially implementing a training activity or module. Materials should be selected based on what is available, keeping in mind they should obtain the objectives at hand. In analyzing results, a formal evaluation should be used during the development of the activity or module. Summative evaluation should be used once all revisions are complete to see if goals have been met. The materials evaluated based on student behavior, criteria level, and instructional goals must be revised after these results are analyzed. Finally, after data shows all objectives and goals have been met, then the activity can be fully implemented. This model is very simplistic in its design and does not have many steps that must be used. It is effective and relatively easy to use for planning and implementation of unit and lesson plans. A weakness is that the focus on evaluation and development seems to be very late in the process. Any revisions that are needed to be made may result in returning to previous stages and redoing those steps, causing more time to be spent on the process. In constructivism, the emphasis is placed on the student rather than the teacher. Bates states in his theory, students have to develop their own personal meaning through reflection, analysis, and the gradual building of layers or depths of knowledge through conscious and ongoing mental processing. A model based on the constructivist theory is built around the idea that there are 4 processes: input, process, output, and feedback. Thus, the Knirk and Gustafson design model would be considered a constructivist model. In a 2001 article entitled The Development of High-Quality E-Learning Courseware for Students in Higher Education, researchers noted the need for more advanced online learning processes. In the case study, the Knirk and Gustafson design model was used in conjunction with other models. The problem was determined through the setting of goals and task analysis. The design stage is used to specify the performance objectives and the methods to be used. And finally, the development stage is used while they review resources and evaluations. The researcher argued that learning with e-learning courseware helped to improve the performance of the students and yielded positive results with student attitudes and behaviors. In a 2005 article entitled Office Ergonomics Training and Instructional System Model for Developing an Effective Program, Robertson and Maynard did a case study that followed the design model by determining a problem through a needs assessment where they then identified the training goals. In the design stage, they identified their objectives and how they would be met. The materials that would be used were determined, and the objectives and strategies were matched to the appropriate media. In the development stage, existing materials were revised and new materials were created. The materials were then implemented and their effectiveness was evaluated. The Office Ergonomics Training Program produced positive outcomes and was considered a success. To use this model, first conduct task and skill assessment beforehand. Using a skills assessment reveals what your students know with an idea of what you want them to know. Second, focus on one key task or skill. If there are multiple skills you would like your students to have, as most units do, you will simply repeat this process. Third, identify the ideal tools and resources. Figure out what you have access to and how you could use those tools throughout the process. Take the needs of your students into account and figure out the best media to use to meet those needs. Fourth, repurpose existing online training materials. And finally, clearly identify your goals to avoid lengthy revision. If your goal is clearly defined and identified, you can avoid those revisions. At the school I work at, this is our first year using It's Learning in the classroom. I feel this would be a great opportunity to use the Knirk and Gustafson model to design instruction for some professional development to help our teachers become more efficient with their use of the platform. The first stage, problem determination, could be used by conducting a needs assessment on how, when, and what pieces teachers are using of the platform. The results would help develop goals and objectives for the instructional design. The second stage, design, could then be applied to develop those objectives and create strategies that would help teachers use It's Learning efficiently. The platform itself could be used as a tool to deliver the professional development. The final stage, development, could be used by making a mock-up of the module. After the presentation or the use of the module to a small group, say my math department, the teachers could provide feedback which could be analyzed and used in revising the mock-up until it reaches the point of being ready to be used in a live professional development setting.